ring the bells! Ring the bells! The best animated movie of the year. Nay. The best animated movie ever. Nay. The best movie ever just dropped. Oppenheimer? Pfft. Parasite? I haven't even watched that shit. This movie's so good, they need to give it every Oscar. Nah. They need to make new Oscars for this movie. Nah. Let's go even further. Let's rename the Oscars. Lost my composure there for a bit. K-Pop Demon Hunters is actually the best animated movie I've seen this year. It's honestly only one of 2 new movies I've seen this year, which really puts into perspective how busy my life has gotten, and the fact that I haven't been able to watch any forms of media or play any games between work, college, making YouTube videos in the hopes of making it big. The other movie I watched was Sinners. My sister forced me to watch this movie since I had no intentions of watching a movie called K-Pop Demon Hunters, because I'm more of a J-pop guy. But I am so glad I ended up watching this movie, since it was one of the most mesmerizing experiences I've had watching a movie. The story might be cliche, and it has a simple structure that has been done time in and time out, and has been used in many popular movies, but maybe there's a reason so many movies use this formula. It works, doesn't it? There's a joke about high top films in there somewhere. I don't really know where to begin with this movie. Every element I was experiencing was keeping me entranced, basically. The animation is some of the smoothest, most expressive, and downright perfect I've seen. That goes without saying, since this movie was animated by Sony Pictures, the same people who influenced literally every single animation studio to pivot their whole animation style. But no matter how many companies try to copy the Sony Pictures animation style with their choppy animation and their expressiveness, no one can beat the pioneers of this style. Every movie Sony makes is like an evolution. They just build on top of every single thing they learned from the previous movies they make. And every single time you think, there's no way they're topping themselves again. And they end up topping themselves again. The Spider-Verse movies really did start a revolution of using mixed media animation and using creative stylizations like animating on 2s and really kind of mainstream. This really ended up bleeding into the criminally underrated Mitchells versus the Machines. Man, no one talks about that movie. Fuck it, this video is about the Mitchells versus the Machines. It really feels like Sony has reached the end game for 3D animation with this movie. The visual fidelity of this movie literally made my eyes hurt with how vibrant and bright and colorful it was. Fidelity aside, the animation itself is so fluid and expressive. The way they use these 2D cutouts to really give a sense of expression, and the way they use their impact frames, the way the cinematography is throughout this movie, I can't put into words how beautiful every element visually is of this movie. The dance performances are better than real life K-pop dance performances, probably due to the fact of how insane the camera work is for some of these. There's just so much to appreciate with this movie that this video is just turning into one large glaze fest. But god damn it, it deserves it. I did that again. The marrying and like the dance between the choreography, whether that be fight or dance choreography, and the camera work is something that not a lot of movies achieve to this level. And I don't think any movie achieved to this level. Everything flows so perfectly that anything that wasn't a dialogue sequence had my jaw on the floor with how beautiful and perfect it looked. And it's a real shame that this movie didn't get a theatrical release or even a 4K release. But even in 1080p, this movie is one of the crispiest pieces of media I've seen. Now that could be due to maybe the upscaler my TV was using, but it just looked perfect. Now, if we were to talk about the story of this movie, like I said in the beginning, it doesn't have any brand new mind-twisting, brain-bending type of story. It really does have a simple story structure, but even with that simple story, it really tells such a nice story that doesn't disappoint in any aspect. And to summarize the story a bit, the movie starts with the legends of the Demon Hunters, Korean girl groups spanning centuries that use songs and singing to rid the world of demons and are on a quest to strengthen the Hanmun. I am going to read the plot summary again to make sure I don't get this wrong. The Hanmun is essentially a shield that closes the portal that the demons use to enter the world. And cutting to present day, the modern day equivalent of hunters are K-pop groups. Who would have thought? The group we follow in present day is called Huntrix, consisting of Rumi, Mira, and Zoe. They are introduced with one of the most badass musical sections I've ever seen, as they are shown being late to their own concert as their private plane staff turns out to be demons. During this amazing introduction to the movie, it turns out that the demon hunters are superheroes and they can just essentially jump out of a plane. Sure. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole story in this section because I want to give a chance for people to kind of go and watch the movie, even though most of everyone watching this, if anyone, would have watched the movie. But essentially, it boils down to Huntrix end up being the closest to sealing the portal for good. During this intro sequence, they see gold, which means that their Honmun is at its strongest. And because of this, they end up releasing a song called Golden, which they believe will actually be enough to fully seal the Honmun, and they will rid the world of demons forever, essentially. It's during this amazing song sequence, I'll get into the songs later, and slight spoiler, it's revealed that Rumi is half human and half demon because her mother, who died while she was an infant, had a child with a demon, obviously. Because Rumi's mother died when she was an infant, she was raised by her mother's friend and fellow K-pop group star. I'm gonna put her name up. Since this is a movie, movies need an adversary, and the adversary of this movie ends up being the Saja Boys, or demons dressed up as the Saja Boys, who somehow release one song and end up taking over all of Korea and get invited to the Idol Awards. BTS be damned, the Saja Boys know how to market. I'm gonna leave this story summary right here and get into it later in a spoiler discussion because, like I keep saying, you need to watch this movie. And I don't want to spoil too much for anyone who decided to click on this video and not watch the movie. And I also do have some gripes with the story that I'll go over at the end of the video. So stay tuned if you need to hear this guy's opinion on K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, coming to the best part of this movie, or just every part of this movie is the best, but coming to the best part of this movie. Now, full disclosure, from about 2016 to maybe 2020, 2022, I was into K-pop. Like, really into K-pop. I don't have it now, but I did have, along with my sister, almost every BTS album physically, and I would listen to only exclusively K-pop for around like a year or two in that time span that I was really into K-pop. Now, I may not be a K-pop fan still, but I do be bumping some Le Sserafim from time to time. The reason I brought this up is to say that since watching this movie, I started listening to a lot of K-pop again. Why am I bringing this up? Oh, right. The OST of this movie is amazing. Like, not an exaggeration. Forget the songs themselves, which are already very good. The melodies in the background music. A lot of movies do this, but it just felt so beautiful. Every time the melody for Golden would play throughout in the background, whether that be on the violin, on the cello, it would just play in the background. And it kept playing in these pivotal moments, and it causes you to get goosebumps almost every time you hear, like, basically that motif play out throughout that whole movie. The whole orchestral suite of this movie is gorgeous. It's genuinely gorgeous. And then come the actual songs in this movie. Now let's talk about the elephant in this room. Soda Pop is the best song ever made. End of sentence. The songs in this movie, especially from Huntrix, are amazing. Golden has been stuck in my head the moment it played in the movie. Right now, I could probably open some Spotify tracker and see that as my most played song the past month. But then you also have Takedown and How It's Done and a bunch more. They even got Twice to do a cover of Takedown. For some reason, I forgot to talk about the song Your Idol, which is actually my favorite. I was going through the soundtrack again just to see what songs are fully in this soundtrack, and Your Idol stuck out so much. It's such a good song, and for some reason, I did just forget to talk about it. So yeah, my favorite song right now is Your Idol, not even Golden. Every frame in this movie is a work of art. You could literally pause any frame of this movie and you could frame that. And the cinematography actually makes you wonder how someone could even come up with some of these camera moves. Like, literally the simplest one. Like, in the Soda Pop song, there's a camera move where it follows his hand. I still can't get over that. He puts his hand forward like this, and the camera follows, zooms in, and I don't know why that scene is so mesmerizing, but I can't stop thinking about stupid camera moves like that. I don't know what's wrong with me. and none of it feels out of place. They managed to create a world where all these wacky, silly, insane camera work and cinematography and all this combined just doesn't even feel out of place. And this might be the recency bias talking. It is definitely the recency bias talking, but I'm obsessed with this movie. And I only have one thing to say to anyone who hasn't watched this movie. Go take a shower. Anyway, so fair warning, anything past this point is fully spoiler ridden. So if you genuinely haven't watched the movie and for some reason clicked on this video, leave, watch the movie, and then come back when you're done. Alright? So as soon as it's revealed Rumi is half demon, the story kind of shifts into her hiding her patterns from the rest of the group. And then Jinu, the lead of the Saja boys, kind of catches a glimpse of Rumi's patterns. And for some reason, out of the goodness of his heart, doesn't just reveal to the rest of Huntrix that she's a demon. Instead, he kind of meets up with her and kind of blackmails her. Because Rumi meets with Jinu, she kind of gains an understanding for demons. Jinu told a fake story to Rumi where Jinu became a demon. He sold his soul so that he could, for the betterment of his family. But then it turns out that was actually a lie. He sold his soul, but still left his family anyways. Basically, after selling his soul, Guima, the head demon of Demon World, gives Jinu a beautiful voice. And that's the reason he's able to get out of poverty, but his family is still left in poverty and they're left to die. And basically, Jinu can't escape the voices of Guima. Towards the middle of this movie, to counteract the Saja boys, Huntrix are basically making a song called Takedown, which is basically a diss track towards the Saja boys. And during the production of this song, Rumi basically is kind of like, no, the demons aren't too bad. You can't call them too bad. You gotta be understanding. When their whole life they were basically against demons. Basically, she ends up meeting with Jinu and figures out a plan where if they seal the Hanmun, Jinu could stay in the human world and not have to go back to the demon world, and then he could finally have his peace. Throughout this whole process, Rumi is basically losing her voice because the demon patterns, it's implied that they're hurting her throat, essentially. They're affecting her vocal cords and she can't sing well anymore. But in her talks with Jinu, and as their love grows, her voice basically heals. Which ties into Rumi kind of believing that not all demons are bad. And during this, there's this beautiful sequence where you kind of see Jinu and Rumi going through the sky with this beautiful song playing in the background. And you can see that Jinu doesn't want to be a demon. You can see his true colors. But then during all this, Jinu is called back to the demon world. And he basically tells Grima, yeah, I was lying, man. I wasn't feeling anything. I was lying. During that sequence, Jinu promised that he would sabotage the Saja boys so that Jinu could have a chance at living in the human world. And once the Idol Awards arrive, the Saja boys do end up failing to appear, which makes it feel like, he did end up sabotaging them, and Huntrix will finally be able to seal the Hanmun. But what they don't know is that the demons are D1 haters, okay? And to kind of TLDR this whole section, they trick Mira and Zoe into thinking that Bobby, their manager, is being taken, so they run after them, and on stage with Rumi, instead of it being her bandmates, it's actually demons, who abruptly stop the performance of the song Golden and end up playing Takedown, and end up revealing to the world, well, basically the world doesn't really understand this, but rip off Rumi's sleeves, and when she runs back, she sees the real Zoe and Mira standing, and they see her patterns. And this whole sequence was so beautifully done, from the stage work to the in-betweens of them pushing her around to pulling out the sleeves. Everything was so beautifully done in this section, and it was so beautiful how even though they know morally she's a demon, they have to kill her, they never fully equipped their weapons. They kind of couldn't, which was very, I think it was very beautiful. And because of all this doubt, Guima is able to finally speak in the ears of all three of them and kind of bring out the worst in all of them. And during all this, Rumi ends up meeting with her mother figure, Celine, and asks her to basically end her life since she is a half demon. And Celine obviously refuses. But then Rumi ends up kind of lashing out over why she can't be brave and why can't you just kill her, why did you let me grow old, and all these things. And again, this whole sequence, basically the whole sequence from the stage performance of the demons all the way to the end of the movie is so beautifully done visually. Now, story-wise, this is where my gripe comes in. After she tells Celine that she wants Celine to end her life, we basically don't see Rumi for the rest up until the end, and we end up at the performance of the Saja Boys, their final performance, where they started playing My Idol, basically releasing Guima to the world and basically releasing the underworld out to the world. And during this, with no context whatsoever, with no scenes between her asking Celine to kill her, up until this scene, we didn't see Rumi again. She just walks in completely changed with no kind of like, how do we get here moment, and just ends up in obviously a really cool sequence and a really good song, end up killing all the demons except Genu, who ends up sacrificing himself so that they could kill Guima and seal the portal forever, essentially. Like I said, the sequences are good, but the movie falls apart in the end for me just because of that one scene. I feel like that's like my biggest gripe with this movie. How did she end up going from kill me to I want to kill everyone now? I feel like there was a scene missing here, like a scene got lost in the edit. And also another thing that really was annoying about this is the length of the movie, because with how short the movie was relatively, we weren't able to actually see the love story of Genu and Rumi actually go somewhere. You kind of had the one sequence, and then you kind of had I hate you and then the sacrifice, which not a big fan of. If you couldn't tell, I kind of rambled that all. I've seen this movie so many times now that I kind of rambled it off the top of my head. I didn't actually write that down. Anyways, so one thing that I kind of forgot to say was that this movie was basically so good that even my gripes with it are basically nitpicks. Like, there's not really anything wrong with this movie. It's just so good. My problems are with that it wasn't long enough. It didn't flesh a few things out, which isn't a problem with the movie. It's probably the problem with the studio. And knowing Sony, they probably cut down a bunch of things, or probably Netflix cut down a bunch of things, which is very unfortunate because there was so much more of this world that we could have explored. And I really do hope we get a sequel, because there's so much more I want to see out of this world. The whole concept of the K-pop Demon Hunters is such a fascinating concept to me, and especially with the ending where she now essentially embraces her scars and her patterns, and they're all golden, which ties back to the whole motif of this movie, which is your insecurities and your flaws are a part of you need to embrace it. And it's, again, the length of this movie really does hinder it because there's just so much more I wanted to see. But I digress. Let's go back to the actual video now. I didn't really have a structure for the end of the video, but basically it all boils down to you should watch the movie.